Welcome to CSC161 Advanced Java. Tonight's topic is going to be stacks. And I have been prowling around trying to find a good example of a stack. Things I have used in the past. There used to be a drive-in that you could go to called the Sonic. And although they're still around, there's a couple of them here in Denver. And you would drive up to the Sonic, you would make your order. And instead of using credit cards, this was still when cash was used. And the people working at Sonic would come out and they have this change machine hooked to them. And you'd fill it with quarters and they would go in and drop in and you'd push, they just push across the top to get the quarter to come back out. And that was a stack. I used to bring in one of those, but now then that's just kind of like repeating history. Another one that I used that worked well in Texas is a gun clip, but in this area, that's not quite as popular and not as accepted. So don't use that. So this is what I'm going to use tonight. This is not a stabbing device. It's nothing more than a turkey thermometer. Okay, so you can check and see when it's done. All right, so to illustrate a stack, this is going to be our stack holder. And what are we going to stack? Well, this is going to hold Cheerios. Okay, so for the concept of a stack, and this isn't any kind of computer language, this is just the stack itself. I'm going to take my first Cheerio and push it onto the stack. Okay, now then I'm going to come along and get another Cheerio and push it onto the stack. Yeah, it's going to work. Okay, and we're going to stack Cheerios. Some of these holes are a little bit bigger and a little bit easier to go. Okay, now that's the idea of a stack. If we want to get Cheerios off of this stack, other than destroying the Cheerio, the only way they're going to come back off is the last one I put on. It's going to be the first one that comes back off. That's it. You have no other choice on this. You can't push them to the other end. This is not like a queue where you come in one end and you start in one end and come out the other. No, this is a different concept. This concept is called a stack. It's not a hard concept, but the things that are hard and fast rules are the only way you can get to a Cheerio is to take the one that's off the top. And once you do that, then everything slides up a little bit. This is where those spring operated coin things came in very handy. Anyway, so to continue this, you simply have to work your way down and you come all the way to the end. I'm not going to put that one back on there. That one's kind of tight. And you can finally get to the very first Cheerio that was placed there. Okay, so on this, other than creating the stack, there's two main commands that we need. To put something on the stack is called a push command. So I'm pushing a Cheerio and I'm pushing a Cheerio and I'm pushing a Cheerio or trying to, okay. That's how you put things on the stack. The only way you get things off the stack is with a command called pop. And the reason it's called pop is literally those spring-loaded coin holders. And as you push the coin in, it did exactly like this. And it was, the spring was pushing up and the way you got it off was you popped it off. And so the command to get these off is pop. And then to get the next one off is pop. And to get the next one off is pop. That is the concept, and that's all there is to a stack. Another example of a stack, and like I said, I went around the house looking for them. Wished I had one of those big flashlights that had like 6 batteries in it. But, oh, okay. Yeah, I see somebody waiting. Okay, now then, for this works the same way. The batteries that you drop into a flashlight, notice this one is solid on the end. It doesn't screw off. If it did, that would make it into a queue again, but that's not what we're after here. So if I drop in the first battery and get it to go down, that was a push. Put in the next battery, that is a push. And if I want to get to the first battery I put in, I've got to go through everything on top of it. This is all there is. So I'll do a pop and that pulls out the last battery that I put in. And this is one reason this is called last in, first out. The last thing in is the first thing that's coming back out. And the first thing that went in is the last thing that's coming back out. Okay, so that's our concept. Now then, let's take a look at some example code of how we can actually make this happen in Java. Okay, so I'm going to share my Eclipse screen here, and we'll go from there. Okay, so here's the share of the Java code, and I'll go down through it to start with java.util.stack. Okay, so we have to import that to be able to work with it as a stack. Okay, so everything else is just standard in here. There's your main public static void main string array args. Okay, now we're going to create a stack, but just like we did with queues, it has to know what it's a stack of. Okay, for this example, we're going to create a stack of cards. And the way we'll represent the cards is by their name. So that essentially turns into a string. Okay, so for this stack, it will hold strings. I will call it stack of cards. And we started off by saying, okay, I want a new stack. Now, again, remember this first part, the stuff on the left-hand side simply says reserve enough room for the address of a stack. Call that place that I can put an address of a stack in as stack of cards. Now that I've created a place for this, go create a stack. And when you find out where you're going to create that stack, come back and give me that address, and that address is what goes into stack of cards. So a lot of things going on in that one line right there. Okay, now then, again, the two commands, push, pop. Okay, so stack of cards, push, jack of diamonds, stack of cards, push, two of spades, stack of cards, push, 10 of hearts, stack of cards, push, ace of diamonds, stack of cards, push, jack of clubs. And that's all I'm going to put in. That's enough for this. And one of the things that you can do with the stack is just say to print the stack of cards, and it will default to giving you the contents of that. So on this one, I have system out println stack equals, and it will show me what's in the stack of cards. Now, underneath that, I could have done this the same way. The pops I could have done as the pushes, but here's how you would work with it. Okay, I know that there are exactly 5 in there. So I'm going to set up a for loop that loops for exactly 5 times. Then every time through the loop, I'm going to say, okay, print a new line, or print and then drop down a line, pop, just those characters, that's just a label there. And then I'm going to say stack of cards dot pop. And every time I do a pop command, it's just like it was with the Cheerios on that little steak. You pop off 1 Cheerio. Okay, now what do I wish to do with that? Well, I want to print it. Okay, so I do that for all 5 times, and that should empty out the stack. And then just to see, I again say stack, print stack of cards. So let's run this and see how it goes. Let's see my run command right here. Okay, raise this up a little bit, and let's see what all we got. Okay, so the first thing that happened is I did 5 pushes, and the jack of diamonds came in first, the 2 of spades came in second, the 10 of hearts, the ace of diamonds, and the jack of clubs. So if this is going to behave as a stack, whenever I go and pop something off, it starts with the last one in, pops that off, then goes to the next and the next all the way down. And so here's my loop. Pop, okay, that gave me the jack of clubs. Pop gave me the ace of diamonds. Pop, the 10 of hearts. Pop, 2 of spades. Pop, jack of diamonds. That was that 5 loop right there. And now then print what's in the stack again, and it will show you the stack is empty. Okay, these are the basic commands for working with the stack. And again, there's a few more commands, but this is the part that I want you to be familiar with. Okay, now given that, I want to take a look at one of the things that's an assignment for this week. And it is exercise 6, and I'm fixing to share that screen with you. Okay. And we are in the week that started on the 12th. Okay, remember we're dating it like that for the benefit of the online people who do not have the benefit of sitting through a lecture time. So anyway, for us though, it's actually the 15th. And here's exercise 6. Are parentheses balanced using stack? So use of stack is required on this one. Write a Java program that reads lines of code from a text file called parents.txt and determines if the parentheses are balanced in each line. Create a stack to hold the characters. When you find an open parenthesis, push the parenthesis on the stack. When you find a closed parenthesis, pop the stack to retrieve the open paren that should be there to match it. Now remember, we're trying to see if the parentheses are balanced, which means for every open, there is a close. You cannot have a close before it's matching open. Okay, so if you ever try to pop the stack and it's empty, you're only popping it if you have a closed paren, and there should have been an open paren that occurred before it that got pushed. Okay, so if you ever try to pop the stack and it's empty, the code will throw an exception. That exception indicates an unbalanced set of parentheses. After reading the last character of a given line, if there is anything left in the stack, the parentheses are unbalanced, because if you put an open parenthesis in the stack, you should have come across its matching close, which will have popped it out of the stack. All right. And so here's some examples that you will find in that file. Print hello there, which should come out as yes, that is balanced. And on this one, if you'll notice, we have 1, 2 opens and 1 closes. 1 closes, 1 close, and this is unbalanced, and it did check that. And on this one, if you go through and take a look at it, it will check that. The thing on checking for open and close, that the parentheses are balanced, is that you ignore everything that's not either an open or a closed parenthesis. That's the trick to this one. Okay, so here's what it is asking you to do. You may have to look at earlier code to figure out how to read a text file 1 line at a time. You will probably have to look up how do you go through a string, which is what these are. You're reading strings. How do you go through a string 1 character at a time from beginning to end? So those things you may have to find. And what I'm going to do in this class, let's see, we started officially at 5:30. I'm going to stop right now, and I'm going to give everybody 30 minutes to complete this thing. So if you have already done this exercise, then you're going to have 30 minutes in here in which you can go do something else. But we're going to come back and take a look at solutions to this particular problem. So we are doing exercise 6. I'm helping you do that, so everybody should be able to turn this in. All right, so the assignment is assignment 6, D2L for this week. It is the exercise assignment. There's a lab underneath this. Okay, so do the exercise assignment. Once I quit yammering here, you will have 30 minutes to complete this thing. Get as far along as you can. Questions? Yeah, I told you we were doing something a little bit different this time. Okay, so go Google what you have to Google, look up what you have to look up, and then I will come back and together we'll look at coming up with the solution to this and make sure everything works. The parens.txt file, if you click on the title of, let me go back and share that so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. In the parens.txt file, to locate that so that you can have it with your code, you'll need to click and go to the actual assignment itself. And in the actual assignment itself, there is parens.txt. and I don't have any place for you to upload it yet. And I will do that when we come back and look at people's solutions. Questions? Okay, then I'm going to take a break. Not take a break. I'm just going to go work on some other stuff. For the next 30 minutes, it is 5:53. So I will pick back up at 6:25. Okay, that'll be our start back time is 6:25. Good luck. I'll leave this channel open. Feel free to interact with each other on the channel, help each other out. I'm just going to kind of remove myself from the equation on this. Okay, 30 minutes, 6:25. I'll see y'all then. All right, so hopefully we have got some of this accomplished. Let me stop the share and check with y'all. How far along did you get with this? Is anybody back?
I think I finished.
Okay.
I also think I finished.
Okay. Anybody else on the finished side of things? Okay. Then Ben, will either you or Kyle volunteer to show the work that you did?
I don't care. Do you want to go or should I go?
Kyle?
I mean, okay, I guess I'll go.
Okay. All right, give me just a
We
second.
could both go.
Yes, we can
uh,
compare our code maybe.
Okay, then I'm going to give both of y'all the ability to share your screen. Kyle, why don't you go ahead and start with this? And then Ben, after he gets through, then we'll take a look at yours, okay?
Okay.
Should I explain my code or?
Yeah, do it. Yes, the way you say me do it. Just kind of start at the top. Just briefly say what each line does, and let's go from there.
Okay, so first I'm calling a get lines function. So that's just getting me an array of a string array of all the lines.
Okay.
So I make a file input scanner, an array list, scan through it, adding to the array list line by line, and then I just return the array list as an array.
Okay.
Then I run get balanced status. So that's just converting the string lines into Boolean true or false.
Okay.
And this is a real mess, but I think it works.
That's where the work gets done.
So I make the array and I loop through each line. And in each line, I make a stack. And I set this Boolean so that in case it closes before it opens, I don't get an exception.
Okay.
And then I loop through each character. If it equals an opening, I push the opening. If it's a closing, I pop it unless the size is 0. And then I'll get an exception, so then I just set no pop equal to true.
Okay.
And then I just set that equal to it.
Okay.
So that's my Boolean.
All right.
And then I just print the results. So that's print balanced. And that's just printing it in the suggested output.
Okay. All right. And yeah, the code looks solid. Let's see, how many lines were in that text file? The parens.txt.
Oh, okay. So
here they are. Okay.
9, I guess.
Okay. And it should go through and it should have found line 2. Did it find line 2 is unbalanced?
Yeah, line 2 is unbalanced.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that code is looking pretty good. And to everybody listening, I am recording this. And when we get through, I forgot to pause the recording while we had that 30-minute break. So I'll cut that out. And it won't be quite so long, but you can come back and see a copy of the solution. Okay. Thank you, sir. If you would please unshare your screen, and then Ben, are you ready to share yours?
Yep.
Okay, go
So
for it.
I've never actually had to share. Oh, there it is.
Okay.
All right, cool. So
Mm-hmm.
my text file, I actually had, are you guys seeing the text file or are you only seeing the
We're seeing the
Eclipse?
code.
Okay.
Eclipse is all that we're seeing.
Well, my text file only had 5 lines.
Okay.
I don't know. Here, let me.
I actually got that same text file from the website where it only had 5 lines.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Mine also only had 5 lines.
Sufficient.
All right. Well, anyways, so first I get the file, the parens file,
Mm-hmm.
and I also make an array list of the lines. I just kind of declare these for later use.
Okay.
And then I try to read through the file. So I make a input scanner going through this file. And this may throw an exception. If it does, then the file is not found. So I print this error
Okay.
message and then I exit the code.
Mm-hmm.
If it didn't throw an exception, then the file is found and it has stuff in it. So while it has next, I'm going to add the next line to my lines array list. And then when I'm done going through all that, I'm going to close this input because I don't need it anymore.
Okay.
Then going down here, I start looping through the lines. So for each line in the lines, and this is going to be a string, I want to make a parenthesis stack for each line, I guess, and I want to have a Boolean variable, whether it's balanced, which I'll keep track of. And then I go through each character by turning that line into a character array. I loop through each character C. If the character is an open parentheses, then I push the open parentheses. If it's a closed parentheses, then I pop. Or if it's a closed parentheses, then I pop it in this try catch statement. So if it throws an empty stack exception, that means that there are too many closed parentheses, so it's not balanced. So I set balance to false, and then I break out of this for loop because we don't need to really go through any of the rest of the characters in this line because it'd be pointless. We already know that there was too many closed parentheses too early on. So then when I'm done with that, I'll also check if the parentheses stack is not empty. So that means that if there's stuff in it, then it's not balanced. I'll set balanced equal to false. And then when I'm done with that, I will print the result for each line. This is still in the line for loop. So I print line and then the index, colon, and then if it's balanced, I'll print balanced. And if it's unbalanced, I will print unbalanced. And I also noticed something that I could make this more efficient. I could remove this balanced equals false over here. I noticed this while I was going through this. And down here, I could just set balanced equal to, equal to if the parentheses C stack is empty, right? Right, and in the end, I probably spelled that wrong. Here, let me just.
Paren left out the N on line 55.
Okay,
there you go.
All right, so I realized that I could just, if it's not empty, so if it is empty, then it is balanced. Actually, I need to set this to the opposite. So if it's, actually, no, that won't work. Never mind. Because
yeah, that's okay.
I thought it could work, but
yeah,
it won't. But that's fine. And I got this result. I could run it again, and I got the same result.
But
I don't
you
know
should if they're prefab lines. Yeah. There's two different versions that parens.txt, and apparently I have it stored in two different places. But I'm not sure if that's why yours only had 5 and did you add extras to yours? So you came up with 9?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I added what was on the website and in the file.
Okay, that's what did it. And
Okay.
that text file, that .text file, I just made that with Notepad. Okay, anything that will read text, so you can open it up with Notepad and add to it, take away from it, just, you know, whatever you want to do in that, so that you can, just don't go through and change the lines in there that I have, so that your code looks like it works when it doesn't.
Okay. I'm not turning in the text file with it, so can I change it for like testing purposes, I guess?
Yes, you can, because what I'll do when I get the code is I run it against the file that I have that's the original. And as long as it
Okay.
works with the original, you're in good shape. Okay.
Okay.
Now do me a favor, scroll to the top of your code. I know you're putting in a comment there, don't forget it. Okay, and just let it sit there for a second to make sure everybody can see what imports you had to do so everything that would work. And
Okay.
I didn't think for the first one we saw to ask that, but this will work. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't actually pay attention to any of these imports. I was just doing Control-Shift-O while I was going through.
But it's kind of nice after you've done that to let it see. Okay, then you can go ahead and stop sharing on your screen if you would, please.
Cool.
All right, so anybody that didn't get finished with this, you'll want to see this video later, come back, take a look at one of the solutions, work your way through the solutions on that. Okay, so that's our first little segment for tonight. Now then, the thing I want to do is I'm going to share, which one? Yeah, back on D2L. And if you just want to look at it directly, you can. That's all I'm doing. So on D2L, this was the one we just did. Okay. And the one that, let me back out of this, go back into table of contents. Here we go. Week 8. All right. So everybody now, whether or not you got it finished, you at least can see a solution set when you get a copy of the video. Now, here's the one that will take you a little while longer, and that's grouping symbols. It says using exercise 6 as a starting point. So we've got that working, and that's where this assignment, this lab starts, is with you having finished exercise 6. So complete programming exercise 20.11, matching grouping symbols, which takes this to the next one, because in code, not only do we have parentheses, but we have curly braces, we have the square brackets. And so this is going to have you go through and see if all of those are balanced. And that is the one that you'll need exercise 6 to get started with lab 6, and it gives you all the guidance that you need on that. So let's see. One change I did make in this to be aware of is the book assigns this, and it's trying to, a lot of times the book will just go with line editors, just pure text editors to get Java started. And in this case, it's passing the file name in like that. Well, don't do that. Just like we hard-coded the file name for this one, hard-code the file name for for the next file. Does it say read lines of code from this? Yeah, matching files.txt. So just hard-code that in. Don't worry about trying to put it in from the execution line. We can do it in Eclipse, and one of these nights, if I get a chance, I'll show you. It's just kind of like we had for GUI. We had to go in and add a couple of keystrokes here and there. Same thing for this, so we can get that done. And that's what you will be expected to finish before class next week. Now, let me come back into week 8 and make sure I've got everything. Okay, the instructions were there. Here is a video on what a stack is, and it's just another way of doing the same thing I did with the Cheerios and the meat thermometer. And this one is an interesting one, how you can use a stack to reverse a string. And this is an exercise when I was teaching the beginning class not in Java, but I mean the beginning programming class, and we're using Python. This is one of the exercises that I would illustrate in class in Python. So anyway, that's a little bit more stuff that you can read and take a look at if you need to. And then this is going to be more of what you just did, just adding in for the other types of symbols too, all of the grouping symbols. So that's the assignment for next week. Questions? Okay, then next week, let's go ahead and take a look at that. We get into sorts. And sorting is an interesting topic. You can see all of the stuff I have here for you for next week. And we'll go through and talk about all of these in different sorts. And we'll find out in coding what big O means. And it's the first time you look at it and you see big O, you're going, what are they talking about? It's really not that bad. And I've got examples I can use that will get you going on that. And then different kinds of sorts. And that's one of the main topics that we take a look at is sorting data. And there are lots of different ways to sort data. And so that's what we'll be spending most of our time on next week. All right. Any questions for me about stacks, which we covered tonight, or about the assignment coming up next week? Go back and click on week 8 because that's where we are. Okay, this is where we are right now. All right, not hearing anything. Then the first thing I'm going to do is stop the recording. So I'm stopping that now.